G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Rob Rawson from Time Doctor. He's based in Sydney, Australia. Thanks for your time today, Rob.
Yeah, it's awesome to chat with you.
Let's start with how we know each other. So Vaishali from Running Remote, which is actually one of your companies, reached out, thought you might be a good guest to come on. You've also got a book that's launching next month in August. So it'd be good to talk a bit about that as well.
Yeah.
Maybe start with tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money, and then tell us a bit about the book.
So I actually had a team in the Philippines at one stage, and I had like a huge office with about 40 people. And I decided I was enjoying it. I enjoyed the team, but then at one stage I just wanted to get rid of the office. Like I thought it was so expensive. And so I wanted to have everyone working from home, right? So that's how I came up with the initial idea of the software is how can I attract time, make sure that I understand the productivity, make sure that I feel comfortable with everyone working remotely. So that's how it started really over 10 years ago. And I built it for myself, but then I expanded out to similar kinds of businesses that had the type of need as well.
Right. Okay. So it really helps with businesses that, whether they're using offshore resources or just their own team working remotely, to help track that productivity and workflow.
Yes, that's right. Time tracking, attendance, and understanding what's going on with your team when working remotely.
Yeah, great. Well, back on the Philippines, I've got 3 team members over there. When you dismantled or disbanded the office idea, I'm assuming that your team there would be very grateful for that because from what I understand, particularly in Manila, it's very time intensive to get to and from the office. So working from home saves them a lot of time.
Yeah, definitely. They like the freedom, the flexibility. And I think now, even in the Philippines, people are actually coming to the job and saying, if this is remote, is it going to stay remote? Because I'm not even going to consider this unless it's going to be a permanent remote job.
Yeah, great. And Time Doctor, do you guys focus on any particular industries or niches? Maybe explain to the audience who.
The top niche that we have is really those BPOs. So similar to what I said, you have maybe have an offshore team, you have an outsourcing company, this type of thing. That's our top niche. We also have digital marketing agencies and a few others using it as well.
Right. How did you start out?
Well, I was a medical doctor originally before I started any of this. So that I started various businesses. Even during medicine, I was so entrepreneurial. I was starting like a marketing agency and I took time off to do that. Like I took a whole year off to do marketing consulting, which is kind of crazy because I had no background. I was just a medical doctor, but I read a whole lot of stuff on marketing and decided that I wanted to do it. And that really didn't succeed because I had to sell myself and I wasn't really comfortable with selling myself.
Yeah.
I'm more of a kind of nerdy in the background type of guy. That was more my strength. And then I stumbled upon, I actually finished my medical degree. So I became a doctor and I was working as a doctor, but I was also stumbling on all this internet stuff and I was trying different things. And at one stage I was in my parents' house. And I was still living with my parents, and I was doing this. I had a friend came over, and I was doing this business with affiliate marketing, and he saw this pile of a stack of checks. So it was like a huge stack of checks, because in those days they would send these affiliate programs from the US. They'd send you checks all the time. So it'd be like one might be $50, another might be like $2,000, $4,000. So there were substantial checks, and it was quite annoying in Australia to have to deposit them. Yep. So I started with all of this kind of affiliate marketing business, and then AdSense and AdWords, and then that took me to the Philippines to develop a team there. And then, as I mentioned, I actually started the software for my own needs from that.
What year and how old were you when you started your first business?
When I was actually starting the business in the Philippines was more around 2006, something around then. So it's quite a long time ago. And even before that, I was trying various things. I had a lot of ambitions around business and trying to be successful. And I wanted to actually, and I love being a doctor. It wasn't necessarily a negative thing, but I just loved entrepreneurship as well. And I tried various businesses and eventually was earning really good money in business. And I decided that, you can't really, as a doctor, just do it half the time. You have to focus all your attention on it. I also wanted to travel the world, see different things. So that's why I sort of drifted away from medicine.
Yeah, right. What year did you decide to leave medicine?
It was around the 2004.
Yep.
Something like that. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So in 2006, when you started up the first business in the team offshore in the Philippines, so how old were you then?
I have to calculate it exactly, but it would be it's like 16 years ago. So 32.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Tell us a bit about the book that's coming out next month in August.
Yeah, so we've been into remote work for a while, and we're just passionate about the subject of remote work. And we've actually have a conference which is called Running Remote, which is all about remote work as well. And the purpose of the conference and the book is to interview these top leaders in remote work and people that have been doing it for many years. There's now companies that are billion-dollar companies like GitLab that are fully remote. So it's in a different league now. Like it's not just a small company. It's just, massive companies that are remote, and they're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, sorry, I think I read Stripe. I didn't realize they were Canadian, but I think they're one of the most valuable Canadian company now. But last year they put to their team, if you flip or move to permanently working from home, we'll pay you $20,000 to make that happen. I think they had to take a 10% pay cut perpetually, but they're a huge company. There's a lot more out there. Obviously, insurance companies, I think even before COVID, a lot of insurance companies like Norwich in the US moved to the remote model.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
I assume you're a fan of Basecamp. They were day one remote.
Yeah. Basecamp as well. But I think a lot of these companies don't really have the right thinking and structure around how to do it. Even if they were forced to in COVID, they still didn't put in place. So they just end up having all of these Zoom meetings, which leads to lots of Zoom fatigue, and they don't have the right thinking about how to do remote work effectively.
Yep. Great. And you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business over the last 10 years, started in 2012.
Yeah, so we've grown to over 8 figures now. We've got 130, so over $10 million revenue. We've got over 130 staff in 31 countries. So we've gone completely remote, they're completely distributed, and a little bit extreme, I would say, so many different countries. But it's very interesting, very diverse.
And how many full-time equivalents did you start with in 2012?
It was just me and a couple of developers. Then my co-founder joined, Liam from Canada, and then we had a few marketers in the Philippines. So it would have been probably, even at the very start, we probably would have had about 8 people, including the developers and so on. I was investing money from my previous business in it.
Great. When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
So that's an interesting question, but I think probably when I started to make profits and when there's less of that worry, because often in business you've got this roller coaster ride of like, oh, this is going great, oh, no, it's terrible, oh, it's going great, and it's now a lot more stable. I'm not as worried about it. But a couple of years, 3 years ago, it took a while before we started making a profit. We were reinvesting everything for probably 7 years before we made any profits.
What does success look like to you?
Success is a combination of like the business success, but I think you have to do it in a way that you're happy personally. Like if you're just successful business wise, but you're unhealthy, you don't have a relationship, that's not success. Yeah. So it's a combination of having that business success is great, but everything else in other areas of life. Yeah.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast growing business? I mean, that's huge growth in 10 years from about 8 team members to over 130.
Yeah, I think SEO is really still an effective strategy. It's something that we focused on a lot in the beginning. So getting the content out there, and just making our name for all sorts of keywords that people are searching for. We built that up over many, many years. So I can just recommend that. It's very long term. It takes a while, but it is quite effective.
Yeah, interesting, because a lot of people think SEO's dead, died a few years ago, but a lot of guests that I have on, particularly those with digital marketing agencies, say, no, it's still very relevant these days in your marketing toolkit.
Yeah.
And you use the Net Promoter Score. Do you know what your recent numbers or number was?
Yeah, it's varied a bit, and we've tried to get it up above 45 or 50 is really the goal, but at some stages it's been more like 33. So we're working on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's still a phenomenal result to be able to achieve that.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I think it means that because the way that Net Promoter Score is structured, even anything above 0 is not that bad, really.
Yeah. Well, considering you've got over 140,000 people using Time Doctor, that's a big sample size. So getting around the 45 positive mark is exceptional. Well done. And how did you fund the business?
It was all self-funded. So we don't have any external funding. I put in probably a total of almost $1 million in the beginning. So I put in some of my own money, and some of that went into mistakes, quite honestly.
Yeah.
But the reason we were able to do it, that's for a relatively small sum, like most software companies actually would cost more, is because we did everything as cheaply as possible, and we're very careful with costs.
Yeah, great. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Probably not. I mean, you'd always want to do something. You might think about doing something different, and I mean, it's not a bad industry, but it's also you always compare yourself against some of these companies that are done much better, right? I mean, it's a very successful company. Like, I don't now have any issues with money the rest of my life for me and my family and my co-founder, but it's still, I look at some of these other companies like that are in the similar kind of remote work space, which is growing dramatically, and they've done far better than we have. So it's all relative, isn't it?
Yeah. Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Yeah, stress was really, especially when the servers have gone down. So because I'm not technical, and it's not something I can solve myself. The servers are going down. I'm relying on people across the world and people that I do trust, but it's quite stressful. And there was one particular period where our servers went down for a few days on and off.
Yeah.
And it was a really difficult situation that took quite a while to get out of it.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
So over the last few years, it's trying to focus on getting the right team in place, and then getting the right structure for management and processes. So getting these quarterly meetings that we have a weekly, like quarterly planning meetings and weekly process meetings, and making sure that we have the right person in charge of each area of the business, and things like that, as well as trying to get this inspiration across to the team. So we have all hands meetings where I'm talking about the vision. And now as the CEO, that's more my purpose, is to really talk about the vision and to understand, to get people excited about the vision of the company.
Yep. What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
Well, I think some of the details, sometimes you do get very caught up in things that you don't necessarily want to do. You just, like, as the CEO, you have to do everything and nothing. So you got to try and delegate everything, but then if something's not achieved, then it falls back to you. So you have to do it. And just probably the lack of balance to some extent. I think I've got more balance now with my life.
Yep.
That I can do other things, but there's certainly periods where I was not balanced at all.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
I love the challenge of it, trying to do something new, and trying to achieve new skills for myself, that I was not able to accomplish. Like if I end up doing the same thing for several years, I get pretty bored at that point, and I want to move on to a new skill.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Yeah, mindset is that I've had to shift is around trying to get the team to be empowered and get the right team in place rather than doing it myself. So in the beginning stages, I was more just telling my team what to do. And that was also partly related to having a lower cost team, you know, an offshore team. Okay, do this, this, and this. Okay, this is next week. Okay, let's do this and this. It's a very hands-on management style. And I'm not saying that's always a bad thing. There's certain aspects where that could be necessary, but as you get bigger, then I've got to try and move to, well, let's get the really amazing manager in place who can manage everything themselves, and then make sure that they're empowered and excited about doing that, about managing their own team and making it happen.
Number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
There's probably lots. Number one, I'm gonna call it productivity habits of focusing on what's actually going to generate revenue. So I would always do this. Even now, I'm still doing it every day. I'm thinking about like, what's going to make me more revenue? What's going to make me more revenue? And I don't think about, because there's 100 things that I could do, you know, compliance and taxes, whatever. Eventually they have to get done somehow. But if you end up doing all that other stuff, you'll never actually grow your business. So it's always a question that I ask myself, and then I'd have like a list of things, top 5 things I would do for the day. At least one of them is going to bring more revenue to the business.
That's good, because if everything's a priority, nothing is. Find it hard to define a clear strategy, then communicate it and execute it alongside the rest of your team? Or you currently don't work a simple quarterly strategic plan to boost your team's performance? Our Business Growth Formula online course is perfect for small business owners with 5 to 30 team members wanting to grow. We share the mindsets, habits and tools to be a legendary leader in your business. growsmallbusiness.com. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes and advice for those listening?
One thing that I've found really effective that I don't know if other people are doing in this way is that I test people during the interview process. So I actually I give them different tests that are very closely related to what they're going to do in the job. So I try to come up with a test that's sort of going to evaluate their skills. And I find that really effective. I don't find interviews as effective because it takes forever to do interviews.
Yep.
And you just have to go through a whole lot of questions, and they could be really nice in the interview, really come across really well, but it doesn't mean that they're going to do the actual,
yep.
You know, their job is not interviewing with people, right?
No.
Their job is something else, especially if you're talking about an accountant.
Yep.
You know, how are you going to evaluate their skills in accounting from an interview? They're not actually on the spreadsheet. They're not doing the work. So you can go on the resume. I find that's really not a good way to evaluate, because people can pump up their resumes, and good people can sometimes have bad resumes. So yeah, that's something that I really focus on, and I'm trying to evaluate people in that way. And then also the other thing is just getting people that are so excited and so passionate in their nature.
Yeah.
And when they come into the job, they just naturally just like this whirlwind of energy. They make things happen. They learn.
Yeah.
And the people that I've managed to get on the team that have been like that have done amazing things for the business. An example would be Igor, who runs our conference. So he actually created pretty much the conference with the help of my co-founder. He created this conference really by himself. He just did everything, like the whole conference, you know, the sponsors, the venue, the marketing, everything. It was just like his project. So this is the kind of person that, you know, the ideal person where you just, and he had no background in conferences either, right? It's not like
just a great attitude.
Look for something. Yeah, just that attitude of going for it.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? The chasm or the difference between an A and a B player. If you invest that time to do recruitment well and keep the B and C players out and the arseholes, A players just make things so much easier when you're growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a really good technique as well to add that project in the interviewing process, because a lot of people you'll find won't submit the project, or some won't submit it on time, so they're all out.
Yeah.
And then the ones that are left, you can actually start looking at their technical ability for that project of something they will have to do in their job.
Yeah. Or even paying them for some work, because actually, if it's a longer project, you kind of have to pay them for it.
Yeah.
But I would always try to get 2 or 3 people that would pay to do some work. And then you can usually see that one of those will be head and shoulders above the rest and doing a better job.
Yeah. What are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
So remote culture is a bit more difficult in that you're not there right with them, but it's definitely possible. And having those interactions, something that we've focused on recently is some videos, like well-produced videos have been good. But mixing it up, we have a vision statement that I'm trying to reinforce all the time. All of these, it's a multi-pronged aspect of our vision of where we're going, what the product is about, getting people excited about that. But of course, you need to reinforce that. Most people just forget it, and that includes the values as well. So in the last all hands that we had, we did a little quiz, which is something you can do on Kahoot, which is a quiz survey, which we did, and you basically give them this quiz, and it's just a fun interactive thing where they're learning about the vision of the company in a different way. So I'm trying to always reinforce that vision and trying to get people excited about that vision for the company.
Hello, audience. This old chestnut, how you've handled balance. You allude to it's much better these days, but some of those times where it was not so good.
In the beginning, I was a bit addicted to work, I would say. And I think the thing is that a lot of the work that I did probably wasn't really that necessary.
Yeah.
Like I probably wasted a lot of that time. And so and it's a two-pronged sword. I mean, that has led to my success, right? Being really addicted to work and being focused on work. But then, there comes a stage where you go, well, is this all I want my life to be about? And so more recently, I have been more focused on other aspects. Like I'm going on a scuba diving course soon. I'm going off on a few-day walk in Australia. So there'll be no internet at all.
Right.
So nobody will be able to message me at all. So some things like this that more recently I've started to, these things that I've always wanted to do and try to incorporate it in my life a bit more.
It's hard. I think a lot of business owners, and I certainly still struggle with it, that addiction of loving what you do. And so I have to put things in place so I don't work as much. It was interesting. I was in Melbourne last weekend for my younger brother's bucks party and talking to my middle brother over a beer at a brewery. He's been a plumber for 25 years, got 3 kids, works 5.5, 6 days a week. And I've been at him for years. When are you going to slow down or just go to 4 days a week? Because he keeps talking about it, never does it. And he said, I just don't know what I'd do with that Friday off, or the Monday off at that time, because, he really enjoys what he does as well.
Yeah.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself over the years?
A lot. I'm always investing in training, but the type of training that I've done has started with personal development. So I've done a lot of different personal development, whether it's Anthony Robbins or other things that I've done. And then I've done training in terms of marketing and business in my area, which is SaaS, software as a service. There's quite a few free trainings that are out there, such as SaaSta, and then I've done some other paid training. So I'm constantly learning, like, what do you need to do as a CEO? I'm also a member of EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, so you can connect with other entrepreneurs. So lots of things like that.
Have you listened to the Nathan Latka podcast?
Yeah. I've also met him once. I've been on his podcast quite a while ago. Yeah.
Great. No, he focuses these days. I haven't listened for a few years, but I think he just focuses on SaaS businesses now.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's great. Most, I don't know if you got him out of you, but he's very good at getting all the key numbers out of his guests, their business.
Yeah, he does. He sneakily tries to get it out of people.
Yeah. Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
Not exactly. I mean, my mentors have been more the virtual mentors, or the people that I've just looked at online, that I've read about, or I've read their materials, etc. So I haven't so much had mentors that I've actually just interacted with it, which I guess is probably an issue. I'd love to have some more mentors. I'd love to have some billionaire who is going to mentor me on how to run a software business, but I haven't been able to find or connect with them.
You have a board of directors or advisors?
Same thing. I don't exactly have. I do have a little bit part of the EO, and my team also form some level of that, because they're very senior team members now that are helping me to make some of those decisions. And obviously my co-founder as well, who's in Canada, but I don't have a formal board, and that's probably something that I should be moving towards in the future.
All right, Rob, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
I think it's the getting started phase, and really even getting your first customer. Like getting one customer is hard. Getting the second one is easier than the first. Yep. So literally getting your first customer, I think, is probably the hardest thing.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
I love the Getting Things Done by David Allen. That's just in terms of a productivity thing.
A great book, GTD. I think it was early 2000s.
Yeah. And I also like the Scaling Up by Werner Harnisch and other books of his as well. Yeah,
I read his early book, Rockefeller Habits, I think it was, and then the Gazelle book, and then they renamed it to Scaling Up. That's a great book as well. Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I am in SaaS, so I actually listen to a podcast, SaaStar, which is from the conference. And I listen to other variety of podcasts, like I sometimes listen to the Nathan Latka one, but also just Tim Ferriss, some of the more popular ones as well.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Lots of tools that I use, but one thing in terms of communication remotely is making sure that you have a way to record your screen and provide trainings to people and send messages, not just in one format. I really love sending audio messages. It's much more effective. Like there's lots of ways to do that. You can actually do it on Slack nowadays as well, or WhatsApp, whatever. But instead of just typing everything, you're just sending a quick audio message. Yeah.
Have you seen the Volley app?
No, I haven't used that one. No.
It seems to be gaining momentum now. They're more like video exchanges back and forth, volleying, as in like a game of tennis. So, so it's asynchronous. So I can send you a quick video, you'll read it. It's like email when you're ready to read it and watch it. And then record a reply and it goes back.
Yeah.
Finally, my favorite question: what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
Really have that higher ambition, but also be very intentional about the things that are going to make the biggest impact towards that vision. So I would probably keep more focused than I have been. Like I was going in lots of different directions, and I would have an even higher vision or higher goal, a more ambitious goal, but make sure that everything that I was doing was not like one of those minor aspects, but really just totally focused on that goal.
Great. Well, thanks very much for your time today, Rob. I think the audience got a lot of value out of what you've shared with us, and congratulations to you and your co-founder and the wider team. That's terrific growth over 10 years, from 8 FTE to over 130 in more than 31 countries, and helping many, many businesses out there, over 140,000 people using your platform. So well done.
Thank you.
And for our audience, we'd greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcasts to help with their growth will find us.